Well, y'all, I'm trying to be more consistent with my videos, but things keep getting in my way. This time it was a cold that knocked me out for a few days, so I decided for the first time ever I'm going to do weekly metal, where I give y'all the metal albums that came out this week, why they are so good, and where they fall in the history of music's most wretched genre. All in the time it normally takes me to do just one video on one album. Hopefully, this works. Let's go. On July 19th, that was Monday, in 1988, we have Texas thrash fan favorites Rigor Mortis with their self titled album. Calling this thrash kind of undersells it. There's influences here ranging from goth to hardcore punk. Particularly, parts of this sound a lot like fellow Texans and hardcore punk legends, Millions of Dead Cops. Rigor Mortis is kind of the opposite of a supergroup in that their band members separated to go star in much more famous bands, specifically industrial metal band Ministry and theatrical metal band Gwar. On July 20th, 1993, we have groove metal deep cuts with Souls at Zero and their self-titled album. A real fun album presaging the connection between groove metal and nu metal with clear hip-hop influences, though definitely more on the kid rock, white boy side of hip-hop than, say, contemporaries A Tribe Called Quest. But I definitely don't mean that as an insult. Kid Rock is a terrible person, of course, but I'm sorry, his first album is kind of fire. The band's two drummers both left the band for much more famous bands, the first one leaving to play in Godsmack, and the second leaving to play in Bad Religion, among many other bands. On July 21st, 1971, you have A Common Sight for the greatest metal album of all time, certainly the root for many of the greatest elements of metal that persist even today, Master of Reality by Black Sabbath. The album has always done well with fans, but a bunch of music critics really look like assholes now for panning the album, calling it dim-witted, among other things. The song Sweet Leaf is the first stoner metal song, an anthem for potheads who wanted something a bit darker than the Flower Child pot anthems that preceded it. The album's most famous track, of course, is Children of the Grave, that some cite to as the first sludge metal song, and showed Black Sabbath innovating on the genre they arguably invented only a year after their first album. On July 22nd, 1997, paganism was brought back into Norwegian black metal with Malom Skokled Åser by Kamfar. This is a great album because it allows me to talk about Norwegian traditions, literary and musical, in black metal without giving a platform to a fascist like Varg. Anyways, my fiance, who lived briefly in Norway and speaks some Norwegian, says he thinks the album cover is a picture of Jotunheimen, Norway's most famous mountain, with a name lifted from the home of the giants in Norse mythology, and the album's title means Between Wooded Hills. The band does a great job of interweaving Norwegian folk music passages with black metal, and one of my problems with black metal is how monotonous it gets, especially tonally and rhythmically, which is the opposite of the dancing melodic folk that appears on this album. Super underrated album in my opinion. A lot of people are much more into Kamfar's later and more ambitious projects, which are influenced more by classical music than Norwegian folk music, but as far as I'm concerned, this one is a classic. And finally, on July 23rd, 2001, Japanese metal Psychonauts, Psy, put out their album Imaginary Sonescape. This is the album where Psy went from a Japanese black metal band trying to carve out a niche for their country in the scene. Just look at the album covers for their first 3 albums, Scorn Defeat, Infidel Art, and even Scenario 4, Dread Dreams. This is the album where they really let their freak flag fly, from soaring guitar solos to the heavy use of organs and synths to thrashy riffs to symphonic passages. There isn't actually that much black metal about this album other than the cavernous, throat-scraping vocals, but that's a real delight. It's trippy as hell, not like, oh, I just smoked a blunt trippy, but like I just dropped 5 tabs of acid and I don't know if real will ever be real again. Trippy. This album didn't come out before the iconic Dr. Mechanibal would join the band. That would be in their album Scenes from Hell. But if you're a fan of pushing the boundaries of what extreme metal can sound like, this one is an essential. So that's it. 1 whole week in 1 video. It's kind of fun to do a rapid fire like that. Also a lot easier for me. Would y'all be into that in the future? Particularly when, for whatever reason, I'm not able to get videos out every day. Let me know in the comments, and please subscribe so unless I get sick again, you can find out what the metal album of the day is, why it is so brutal, and where it fits in the history of the genre.